So welcome back, everybody. I'm Guy Smith with Pat DeLuca here to give you guys an overview of what's going on with DP2 and KC2, what we've been working on. So I know there'll be more sessions later today. We'll get started with a few things of an overview nature, and then Pat and others will get into a lot more specifics later today. Our session is designed to allow for some time at the end for Q&A. So we have some information here about how you can submit questions, raise your hand. Are there specific things here, Pat?
On your panel, you should see, you'll have that orange arrow that will allow you to minimize it and bring it up. You should see a questions, potentially /chat window. If you go ahead and type in your questions or just say, I have a question, when we get to the end of what we're doing, we'll kind of in order, first come, first serve, and we'll open the mic and let you ask your question. If you don't have a mic or you don't want to ask it, yourself, just type the question right in the chat pod and we'll read it for you. See, there's some of the features that we're going to cover in terms of enhancements for the DP2 and the KC2 workflows. This is not, and this is kind of a subset, a short list of the different things that were added for version 20.2. All of them are about workflow efficiencies and automation, and it covers kind of a wide range of different places and tools in DP2. We're going to show you these primarily in PowerPoint. If we need to, maybe doing Q&A to answer a question, mostly so that you have them, right? So these will be available to you later, but also so that we could make it clearer. I could make the screens obviously bigger than they might be if you were actually seeing them in DP2. So these are some of the things that I'm going to cover, and again, I'm going to go through it in a PowerPoint format, so it should hopefully be, the visuals will be pretty clear. We're going to look at using workflows in a more robust way than maybe you're using today. For those of you who might be new to DP2 or have never used workflows, we'll give you a sense of where that functionality is. We're going to look at some of the things that got added to the order items data table, as well as some added functionality for KC2 labs. So if you are preparing your catalogs and you're just kind of getting up and started, I think there'll be some things that not only will make it a little more efficient, but also these were things that labs asked for. So you'll be able to see those as well. So the first one is using workflows. And using workflows was implemented a couple of versions ago, maybe 17, 18. And what it allows you to do is organize your order items into workflows. So you could have a workflow for a wide range of reasons. But this will allow you to look at your order items by workflow. So from the order data table or from select order, it'll open up multiple windows so that you'll be able to then see and act on those in smaller groups rather than looking for thousands, through thousands of order items for the 8x10s. You could set up, as an example, an 8x10 workflow. These are, so once you've looked at or organize them by workflow, you can see I have a series of them here, and I created this screen for a right click so you could see you really can have as many workflows for as many reasons as you need. And in this case, I have different ones, right? I have different types of work, I have different types of output. It just really is, it's another decision point or choice, right, and control for you as a lab. In addition to being able to set the workflow in the product, which is where those originate from, you could also set the workflow right in the order item. So if you haven't done it today, but you want to create a workflow, you can actually just go ahead and select the order items and set the workflow right from within the order items data table. So a second, and this is just, again, what you'll be able to do is, pull that up and run your order items, and you can see at a couple of layers here. But you can have as many as you need. It's going to make your workflow as efficient as possible, which is, of course, what everybody's after. This is another efficiency. This is also from the order items data table. This particular feature was added at the request of a lab, but I think everybody's going to benefit from this because now when you come into your order items data table, you can actually view the ones that have been submitted for printing as well as the ones that have not been. So if you're trying to manage from an administrative or production standpoint, you'll actually be able to see that. In addition, in the order items data table, you can see by job whether or not it's been submitted. You can see not just whether or not it's been submitted, but when. So if you're trying to chase work or you're trying to understand your production, especially if you're in an automated environment where the first time your operators are seeing the jobs is in the order items data table or as function of a completed, an order that's been entered into DP2 without human intervention. So one of the other things that was added to the order items data table, and I know I can think of a couple of labs right off the top of my head who wanted this, is the ability to view the subject info from the order items so that you don't have to go, digging through what order item is it, what image. You can actually go right to the subject info data table. So if you needed to correct something, say there was a misspelling or they got the wrong name, you now have direct access to that data right from the order item, which will be really handy in a lot of cases. This is a second efficiency that was put into the order item itself. In this case, what's happening is you have the ability to go into the node and select the node, and then down toward the bottom, I thought I had a certain, highlight there, but you can see at the very bottom of this image where it says open and display the image file for the selected node. So again, now you can actually go directly by node, get directly to that order image, which will be really handy when you're trying to troubleshoot or find something where you want to be dealing with only certain subsets of things at a time. So one of the other things that was added to the overall DP2 workflow, and this is actually something that was added based on a manual workflow in a lab. The lab was trying to use the retouch flag in the order images data table so that they could understand not only manually that something needed to be retouched, but they could then understand that it had been completed. So what happens now, you can see that I have the data table as well as the image. We've always, well, not always, for quite some time we've had the ability to use that manual retouch flag in the navigate window, and it would allow the enable the operator queue for the red square in the upper left-hand corner. What's new is now there's a field that's been added to the order images data table. That's a manual retouch complete field, and that changes that red square to a red square with a little black square inside of it. So that's going to, again, it's going to allow the operators to understand the state of that image and understand whether or not they have work to do to manually retouch it. And for those of you who may not be familiar with it, when you set DP2 and Photoshop up so that Photoshop or whatever your image editing program is the default for opening an image, when you select to retouch that in DP2, it will open it up in that program. It will allow you to make changes, to save changes, and then to refresh your thumbnail, and you'll be able to see that edited and saved image. So that's just a kind of a smattering of the new features that will be enabled in 20.2. And when software is released, there'll be a what's new document and other information as well as these presentations. And with that, I'm going to give this presentation back to Guy to pick up where we're going.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, as you may have seen there, so many of those things have been, as I mentioned earlier, about putting the right information in the right place in different parts of DP2, so you don't have to go around looking for it in different menus and things. And the input that we've received from all the labs is so helpful in knowing what you need where. Just keep that kind of thing coming, and we'll continue to build that kind of stuff out. This next slide is just kind of a reminder. There's a general rule of thumb. I'm not sure if it applies to DP2 exactly or not, but that software companies find that only 20% of their features are used by any one user. The corollary is something like, yeah, but they all use a different 20%, so you need them all. So I don't know what's true or not. But I use it only to bring a point to make sure you know we're here to help you get everything out of DP2 that you really can. And we know it's a very feature-rich, complex product. So just a bit of a reminder, you know, we have the ProLab Resource Center that all ProLabs have access to, where we have DP2 videos. We put up past workshop presentations. There's tips and technique articles up there. It's a searchable asset base, so you can come up and just type in some keywords that you're looking for, and we'll pull up whatever kind of video or presentation material might have that content in it. The second topic, I touched on it earlier, and I don't want to steal all Eric's details about this later, is a new service desk portal that we've put in since just early this year. And the really cool thing is it's a one place for you to come and put in problem reports, put in feature requests. And as well, we're building out the knowledge base. It's a searchable knowledge base as well. So the support team is always writing up pretty much after every call we take what the learning was and what kind of information we need to condense out of that interaction, and making it available for others when they come to the service desk portal. And there's also, you know, webinars like these and all the customized training that's available through your account manager when you have the needs. And Pat and Kathy and Tom Licio do a great job of tailoring those to each customer in terms of what they're really specifically doing, what they're looking to improve upon, and we continue to offer all of that. So now it's time for Q&A. So we brought up the slide again that shows you how you can ask questions to either Pat or I, and we'll pause there and see if any questions come in.
So we have a question from Max at JD Photo, who asks, when I try to use workflows, I was told they only work on remote orders and remote products. Is that true?
No, that's not true. So workflows will work in any part of DP2 because the workflow itself is defined in the product data table. So if you, and I don't know, Max, if you're in front of DP2 now, but if you go in to edit any product, you'll see somewhere along the, you know, outer edge of the fields in the product data table the ability to create a workflow. You can just type in a workflow and you can use it to organize the work right out of the order data table. Once the product is used in a job, then you'll be able to go ahead and organize it by any one of the workflows that you define.
Where do I go to delete a workflow? From Adrian at Chris Lab.
To delete a workflow? I don't have any sound on the headset, so I don't know how you guys are going to manage that. Is there a table of workflows? Actually, I don't think. That's a good question. You know, I can't answer that question, Adrian. I'll have to get back to you. You can remove the workflow from the product, but you want to actually delete, so we'll have to talk later. If you want to actually delete the workflow itself, there's some questions I'd want to ask, like, do you want to delete the workflow from the system? Do you want to not see it in your drop-down? So if you wouldn't mind dropping that question into the service portal, I will answer it either later this afternoon or tomorrow.
Another question from Marisa. Is there any chance of migrating the UI within DP2 to a more unified window, maybe with tabs instead of opening several windows, specifically when opening workflows within an order?
To have it tabbed, I don't know that that's on the plan, but it's a good suggestion. I haven't seen actually anything that says anybody's planning on that. So if you don't think to add it to the service portal, I'll do it because I won't forget that one.
I have another question from Paul Bittner. Paul, if you're there, go ahead.
When will you have support for current versions of OS and SQL?
can't answer that. Can you answer that, Eric? It's a good question.
Let's bring that up with the open mic guys a
Yeah.
little bit later.
Yep. Yep. Do you have that written down?
I'll keep it there.
Okay, okay. There's a couple of other questions in the chat pod too that we'll probably want to have saved for open mic.
Let's see, we have another hand raised. All right. I see you posted a question in the chat too. Are there plans for a 64-bit deployment of DP2?
No. I know it comes up. I don't know personally the technical scope involved in that, but our developers always run to the other corner of the room when the question get asked. So no current plans for that, Jason.
He has a follow-up question that says, boo.
I'll ask again.
All right. I think that does it for the questions for now. Doreen, I see you still have your question. We're going to hold that for when we have our DP2 developers.